Thanks for joining us. This is Omni, the show that brings you balanced perspectives on the day's biggest stories so you can form your own conclusions. I'm your host, and today is April 5th, 2026. We'll examine what happened, how different outlets across the political and international spectrum are framing it, and the deeper questions worth considering. As always, we stick to the confirmed facts first, then explore the varying interpretations. Let's begin with a dramatic and high-stakes military operation in the Middle East. U.S. forces successfully rescued both crew members of an American F-15E fighter jet that was shot down over Iranian territory. President Trump personally announced the rescue, describing it as one of the most daring search and rescue missions in modern American history. The operation occurred deep inside Iran in challenging mountainous terrain and involved dozens of aircraft coordinating under difficult conditions. One of the crew members sustained injuries, but both were recovered alive and are now receiving medical care. Iranian state media claimed that an American aircraft involved in the search effort was subsequently destroyed, though outlets like The Guardian have been careful to note that this specific claim could not be independently verified. Across the media landscape, the core facts of the successful rescue are reported consistently by outlets ranging from NPR, CNBC, and Bloomberg to The Guardian, France 24, and the Daily Mail. Conservative-leaning coverage, such as in the Daily Mail, tends to highlight the bravery and technical skill of the American forces, the operation's depth inside hostile territory, and Trump's direct role in publicizing the success. International outlets like France 24 place the event in the immediate context of the same day's broader regional violence, noting that Iran had launched missiles and drones toward both Israel and Kuwait. The Guardian, while reporting the rescue, gives additional space to Tehran's unverified counterclaim about a second U.S. aircraft being lost. What's interesting here is how the same set of events produces noticeably different tonal emphases. Some outlets foreground operational success and American ingenuity, while others underscore the dangerous proximity to wider escalation. The question worth considering is how an event like this might affect delicate diplomatic backchannels, particularly around the critical shipping lane in the Strait of Hormuz. That same regional conflict is now creating tangible effects far beyond the battlefield. The ongoing closure of the Strait of Hormuz has triggered fuel supply concerns and rising prices in multiple countries. Italy has begun imposing limits on jet fuel availability at certain airports, directly affecting commercial aviation. Australia is actively seeking written supply assurances from its Asian trading partners, including Singapore, South Korea, Malaysia, and Japan. In New South Wales, authorities have issued fines to nearly 100 service stations for allegedly misleading customers about petrol prices during the shortage. Meanwhile, in the United Kingdom, voters are voicing growing frustration over both the cost of fuel and the broader direction of national energy policy. Different outlets reflect distinct priorities in their coverage. The Guardian focuses on the practical, ground-level responses, governments scrambling to secure alternative supplies and regulators cracking down on price gouging. Bloomberg zeroes in on the immediate pain felt by the European aviation sector, treating the Italian fuel limits as a concrete example of how distant conflict quickly becomes domestic disruption. The Daily Mail gives considerable space to public anger in Britain, particularly criticism directed at Energy Secretary Ed Miliband, with some voices arguing that the crisis demonstrates the need to reconsider net zero timelines and lift restrictions on North Sea oil and gas exploration. These perspectives reveal a tension between the urgent need to protect consumers from immediate price shocks and longer-term commitments to energy transition. What's interesting is how a single geopolitical choke point can simultaneously generate logistical emergency measures in some capitals and heated political debate in others. The question worth considering: how are different governments attempting to balance short-term consumer protection with their stated longer-term energy transition goals? Compounding these supply worries, President Trump issued a strongly worded demand that Iran reopen the Strait of Hormuz or face significantly increased consequences. The deadline for compliance is now rapidly approaching. The Daily Mail characterized the statement as a particularly blunt and at points misspelled threat, linking it directly to both the successful rescue operation and the emerging fuel shortages. Coverage across outlets connects the ultimatum to overlapping concerns. Some focus on the military risks of escalation, others on the potential economic fallout for global energy markets. What stands out is how one narrow stretch of water has become the focal point for intersecting military, diplomatic, and market pressures all at once. The question worth considering: what realistic options does the United States have if the strait remains closed beyond the deadline? Stepping back for a moment, it's worth noting something that much of the day-to-day coverage tends to treat as background rather than foreground. Most reporting presents the current closure of the Strait of Hormuz as a sudden crisis born of this particular conflict. Yet the strait has functioned as a recognized strategic choke point in global energy flows for decades. Roughly one-fifth of all seaborne oil trade passes through this narrow passage between Iran and Oman, where in places the navigable shipping lane narrows to as little as 2 miles wide. That geography creates a structural vulnerability that cannot be quickly engineered away. Historical precedents, from the 1980s tanker war through repeated incidents in more recent decades, demonstrate that even the credible threat of disruption can move global oil markets before any shots are fired. When evaluating claims about energy security or military escalation, it's useful to ask whether proposed responses address this underlying geographic dependence or simply manage the symptoms. Next time you encounter a headline about Iran, fuel prices, or the latest threat, consider who ultimately controls access to that choke point, how long it would realistically take to develop meaningful alternative routes, and what past crises suggest about how these vulnerabilities have been both managed and exploited. Elsewhere in the Middle East, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu confirmed an attack on a petrochemical plant, describing it as part of ongoing hostilities. In the same stream of reporting, The Guardian's live blog noted that Iran has executed 2 men convicted of membership in a banned opposition group, the People's Mujahideen of Iran. Coverage generally presents the Israeli strike through verified statements from Israeli officials, while treating the Iranian judicial actions as internal security measures. The neutral tone maintained by many outlets on claims that remain unverified from various parties is notable. What's interesting is how external military actions and domestic repression can appear side by side in the same news cycle, each potentially reinforcing the other in the eyes of different audiences. The question worth considering: how might internal Iranian security actions relate to the external military tensions the country now faces? On the Ukraine front, reports indicate that Ukrainian drones struck a strategic steel supplier that provides material used in Russian tank production. Coverage on platforms like Reddit's World News community frames this as part of Kyiv's continuing campaign to degrade Russian military-industrial capacity. The strike comes on the 1501st day of the conflict. While the immediate tactical impact is still being assessed, such operations highlight the growing role of long-range drone strikes against industrial targets far from the front lines. The question worth considering: how effective are precision drone strikes against dispersed and hardened industrial facilities in a protracted war? Closer to home, a troubling incident occurred in Louisiana. A man has been charged with impaired driving after allegedly driving his vehicle into a crowd celebrating Lao New Year. At least 15 people were injured, with some sustaining serious injuries. The Guardian reports the matter as an ongoing criminal investigation by Louisiana State Police, with charges including driving while impaired and multiple counts of negligent injuring. The event has understandably shaken the local community. The question worth considering: how can communities successfully balance vibrant cultural celebrations with necessary public safety considerations in shared public spaces? In immigration news, the niece of a prominent Iranian general has been arrested by Immigration and Customs Enforcement in Los Angeles along with her daughter. Their green cards were reportedly revoked over allegations that she celebrated the deaths of U.S. soldiers. The Daily Mail identifies the woman as Hamideh Soleimani Afshar, niece of the late Qasem Soleimani, and details the circumstances of their detention while they had been living in the Los Angeles area. Some coverage also notes aspects of their previous lifestyle in the United States. This case inevitably raises broader questions about how immigration enforcement intersects with international tensions and national security considerations. The question worth considering: to what extent should immigration policy be shaped by or insulated from the state of foreign relations? Finally, a cultural shift in how people use technology. Ofcom data suggests that Britons are increasingly moving toward more passive consumption of social media. Many report feeling hesitant to post personal milestones because of concerns about mental health, the permanence of past posts, and changing platform dynamics. The Guardian explores this trend through personal anecdotes, noting that while social media remains embedded in daily life, a growing number of users feel simultaneous pressure to document major events and anxiety about the long-term consequences of sharing them. The coverage connects these behavioral changes to evolving features on major platforms and increased public awareness of mental health impacts. The question worth considering: what is the complex and still evolving relationship between social media use and mental well being? Before we close, keep an eye on further developments around the Strait of Hormuz deadline and any official responses from Iranian officials in the coming hours. That's Omni View for April 5th, 2026. For full source links and today's written briefing, visit the Omni View summaries page. As always, compare multiple outlets, seek out primary documents when possible, and work to separate what is known from what is assumed. If you find value in balanced perspectives, please share this episode with a friend and subscribe wherever you listen. We'll be back tomorrow. Take care. This podcast is curated by Patrick, but generated using AI voice synthesis of my voice using ElevenLabs. The primary reason to do this is I unfortunately don't have the time to be consistent with generating all the content, and wanted to focus on creating consistent and regular episodes for all the themes that I enjoy, and I hope others do as well.
Without taking the dive, we went on vacation. We had a nice time. My doomsday